Welcome to our New Horizons Wednesday night small group. To me, it's New Horizons because it's mostly the case of what we've got on Sunday morning. We do have some other people, so we thank them for coming too, but it's our Wednesday night small group, and we have been studying selected parables of Jesus. So this is session number 6, but it's actually session 5 in the study. We skipped one of them on the unmerciful servant because we did it in Sunday morning. So if you want to see the parable of the unmerciful servant, go back and look at it. But this is session number 5 in our study, session number 6 in the book. So we're in Luke chapter 12, beginning at verse 13. Luke chapter 12, beginning at verse 13.
Okay, now do you have something, a book to follow along? How's that work?
No.
No.
Some folks bought a separate book, but the group does not have a book, no.
So we just have to guess?
Well, no, we're going to go over it.
You have to listen.
But I mean, before we meet here, if we can't meet with this group, then we're in a guessing mode.
Well, then you'll have to look at it online. Because
Online?
it'll be up on the Facebook page as well. Okay?
Not
So-
clear.
Okay, we'll talk about it afterwards then, and we'll get it clear for you. Okay, what we've done so far. In session 1, we looked at the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector, and we talked about what it meant to be humble before God. You remember the tax collector beat his breast and said, "Have mercy on me, a sinner." The Pharisee was the one who prayed to himself about how good he was. So the point of the parable was that you should be humble before God. In session 2, we looked at the parable of the prodigal son. We talked about how God is lovingly waiting for all of his children to return, to repent and come back to him. And we talked about forgiveness and our relationship with God. In session 3, we talked about the parable of the sower, and we talked about what kind of soil we might be. The word's been implanted. How did it take root in our lives? And also, part of it also talked about how when we plant seeds in other people's life, what kind of soil do they have to receive that seed? We're not responsible for the soil of other people. We're responsible for the soil of our own lives and how we take the word and let it grow in our lives. And then the last time we met, we talked about the parable of the Good Samaritan. And we talked about what it meant to love our neighbor and who is our neighbor. And now this week we're in Luke chapter 12, and we're talking about the parable of the rich fool. So there was once an old fable called The Ant and the Grasshopper.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody remember that one?
Oh, absolutely. I had a puzzle with that when I was a kid.
The Ant and the Grasshopper.
Every day.
And the gist of the myth, and Bev, since you remember it, make sure I get it right, but the myth or the fable of the grasshopper and the ant was the ant was the one who was industrious, who worked, who put things away, was ready for when winter came. The grasshopper, on the other hand, just kind of fiddled life away until it was time for winter, and then he came knocking at the door of the ant, "Save me, because I have not done anything to prepare." So the question tonight, one of the questions for tonight, is are you an ant or a grasshopper when it comes to saving? Are you a saver or are you a spender?
Depends on what day it is.
Depends on what day it is. Depends on what I'm spending on. I mean, we go shopping and I always see something that some grandchild can need.
I think maybe Mardell's.
Yeah, Mardell's. We go to Mardell's, it's something that I need or Vivian needs or a grandchild. Somebody needs it because I've seen it there. But the problem with that is you start accumulating all this stuff. And then the second kind of follow-up question is, what takes up most of the stuff in your storage area at home?
The stuff that I think, gee, I can't get rid of that. I might need it someday.
Might need it sometime.
And
Yeah.
after 30 years, I still don't need it.
Mm-hmm. They can be mementos of when your children were young. It can be old clothes that you think someday I'm going to fit in these clothes again. Or family heirlooms. I mean, we have boxes downstairs. I've actually been good about this. We have boxed them up and labeled them. But Vivian and I both have at least one box downstairs that is things that we had as kids. So she has an old baby doll, and I have something that I made at camp and some other things. She has a box of family keepsakes, and I have a box of family keepsakes. What's even worse is I have boxes that are labeled with every place we have ever been, with mementos and keepsakes. We have a lot of boxes. So there's one, like labeled, Alaska, and there's stuff in that box. And there's one that's labeled Germany, and there's stuff in that box. Stuff that we have so much stuff we can't put it all out. For those of you that have seen our house, the rooms have things hung from all the places we've been, but there's so much stuff in the boxes, Sandy, that we'll never get it all up. And the hope, we look at each other and say, someday the kids may want this.
You might as well forget that one.
You could really think. We have tried that. We have told them, if there's something that you see that you want, take it now.
And they haven't taken anything.
No, our oldest son's reply was, I want it someday, but I want it in your house now.
Good answer.
He likes it where it is.
Well, they don't mess with it.
It's not the same.
So I don't know what's going to happen. We're going to let them worry about that because we'll start getting rid of it when we finally have to move out of the house.
I've had my grandkids come in and, okay, you've always liked this, take it home with you. What paintings, they took some paintings. If they even act like they might like something, I think, fine, take it home.
It doesn't work with ours.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about a half a dozen things out of probably 1,000.
I don't know what they'll ever do with it. I just remember we try to give it to them and they don't want it. They want it in our house so they can look at it in their parents' house.
If you call these trash companies, they'll put a big dumpster out in front of the house.
Yeah, but I don't want to do that. We'll see when we actually end up someday, long time from now, I hope, having to move into an assisted living place somewhere or an apartment someplace. They're going to have to take it, or it is going to get dumped because we won't have room for it then. But
We have a garage sale.
have a garage sale. In the world today, if you watch TV particularly, or you may get texts, I get emails, I watch it on TV. All these companies tell you about how you need to secure your future. You need an annuity. You need this. You need that. Because it's going to secure your future going forward. When you retire, although most of us in here are already retired, but when you retire, you're going to need this to live comfortably. It's a big business. Having possessions to make life easy going forward. And the parable tonight is the parable of the rich fool, which kind of goes contrary to this, because the parable talks about overdependence on possessions. Overdependence on possessions. So we're going to take a look at that tonight. So as we get started, and somehow or other I got a page out of order, we're going to start in Luke chapter 12, and we're starting at verses 13 and 14. Now, prior to this, Jesus has been talking about being on your guard against the hypocrisy of the Pharisees. Don't follow what they've told you. So if you look at chapter 12, starting at verse 1, mine's labeled, Beware of Religious Hypocrisy. And as you go forward, then he comes up to verse 13, and somebody's going to interrupt him. They're going to have a question. So verses 13 and 14. Sandy, would you read those? Chapter 12, 13 and 14.
Sure. Someone from the crowd said to him, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Friend, he said to him, who appointed me a judge or arbitrator over you? He then told them, Watch out and be on guard against all greed, because one's life is not in the abundance of his possessions. Oops,
Okay.
I read too
Yep.
far.
You're good. So in the Holman, verse 13 says, someone from the crowd said to him, so he's been teaching the disciples and crowd of people around him, and someone interrupts him in his teaching. Someone from the crowd to him said, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Now, when I first read this and think about it, the question that comes to my mind is, why are you asking a religious teacher to solve what to me is a legal issue, an inheritance issue?
Want somebody on his side.
It doesn't track with me. But in reading the commentary, I find that evidently in this time period, it was not unusual to ask a respected rabbi, a respected teacher, to solve a legal dispute. And in this case, the legal dispute is on the inheritance. So, as we've talked before, inheritance generally passed from father to sons, and the oldest son would generally get 2/3 of the inheritance, and the younger son would get 1/3, assuming there were only two sons. The older son would get a double portion, and the rest of them would get a single portion. So the idea was that the family would stay together. So it's not like the inheritance is going to go to the sons and the sons are going to go, move away. The idea is that you keep all the land in the family. And land was important. Land was a measure of wealth then, just like herds and other things would have been a measure of wealth. But land was a measure of wealth, and you wanted to keep it in the family. So evidently, this man who interrupts him had a brother, an older brother, and the two of them were not getting along. The older brother was not abiding by the division, or had not divided and giving him his share, or whatever. They were in an estrangement. They were not getting along with each other. So Jesus then replies to him, Friend, he said, who appointed me a judge or an arbitrator over you? In other words, why are you asking me? Why didn't you go to the courts? This is a legal issue. It's not an issue that a religious teacher should be solving. Why are you asking me this question? He refuses to get involved. But he does get involved not from a legal issue, but from a morality issue. Because if you look in verse 15, he says, Watch out and be on guard against all greed, because one's life is not in the abundance of his possessions. The man who interrupts him is stating it as a legal issue. The real question comes down to greed. You look in verse 15. Watch out and be on guard against all greed. And there's probably some greed on both parts. If the older brother is not giving the younger brother his share of the inheritance, there's some greed there. The younger brother's got some greed because he wants what's mine. But Jesus makes the issue not legal, but moral. And the interesting thing, again, I learn a lot of stuff when I look at these things. The word that's used for greed here literally means a thirst for more. I forget who it was, but there was some billionaire back in the early 1900s who was asked how much money is enough, and his answer was $1 more. I don't remember who it was, but I remember that quote from somebody. $1 more. Never have enough. I want $1 more. And then he says, greed because one's life is not in the abundance of his possessions. And the word for life here doesn't just mean biological life. It means the quality of your life. So the quality of your life is not measured by the idea that I need $1 more to be happy. I need something else to be happy. And this is where he tells the parable. So 16 to 19. 16 to 19. Sherry, would you read those?
And he spake a
parable unto them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. And he said, This will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry.
Okay. In the Holman, verse 16 says, Then he told them a parable. Remember, a parable lays two things side by side. Earthly story side by side with a spiritual meaning. So he starts off with a rich man's land was very productive. Very productive here probably doesn't mean he just got a nice big crop. It means evidently it was an overflowing crop. In fact, you kind of think about it as the crops in the 7 years of plenty with Joseph in Egypt. There was lots of produce that came out of his land, much more than what would have been expected. Verse 17 says, He thought to himself, What should I do since I don't have anywhere to store my crops? So, got a problem here, folks. I've got barns, but they're full. I've got an abundant crop. What am I going to do with it? Simple solution. I will do this. I'll tear down my barns and I'll build bigger ones. So this guy probably was already pretty wealthy because he already had barns filled with produce and goods. But I'm going to take the solution that I'm going to tear them all down. I'm going to build bigger barns and I'll store everything up. Notice what he's storing here. Store all my grain and my goods there. My. He wasn't Joseph, thinking of storing up for the people for later. He's thinking of storing up for things that I can have later. It's all mine. Now, up to this point, the people who were hearing the parable probably thinking, this guy's got it good. God likes him. Because remember, during this time frame, if you were doing well, if you were rich, if you had possessions, that means God was smiling on you. You were being blessed because of your attendance on God. So they would have looked at this and said, this man is in a good relationship with God. Look at what God has given him. And not only that, man, this man is smart. He's going to store it all up so he's got something to have later. He's not just going to spend it all right now. He's going to have something that he can put away till later. So they would have looked at him and thought, man alive, this man has got it made. But it's all mine. My grain, my goods. Verse 19 says, Then I'll say to myself, You have many goods stored up for many years. Take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry. Or the Holman says, enjoy yourself, which would be merry. But what he leaves off is the tail end of that. Does anybody know what comes at the end of that? Eat, drink, and be merry.
For tomorrow you may die.
For tomorrow you may die.
It's not in my Bible.
No, it's not. But what he's quoting is a cliche or a quote that would have been very prevalent in this time because there was a philosophy called Epicureanism, which basically said life was to be enjoyed. You are to have a good time, party all day long, do whatever you want. If it feels good, do it. That was the Epicureans' philosophy.
Well, that's nice.
Sounds like today.
Yeah, sounds like today. No thought at all about your relationship with God. So from a Jewish perspective, Jewish ethical perspective, it would have been the opposite of the Epicurean. So the Epicurean is eat, drink, and be merry, live it up because tomorrow you may die. No thought about God, no thought about your fellow man, no thought about the responsibility you may have going forward. I've got all this, why not give some of it to the poor? No, it's mine, mine, mine. You don't get any of it. 20 and 21. Ron, would you read those?
But God said to him, You fool, This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God.
Okay. Up until this point, the only character in the story is the rich man. Now God inserts himself into the story. God said to him, "You fool." In the Bible, when you see the word fool, you're talking about somebody who has no regard for their relationship with God. They are literally the Epicureans, if you will, or people who have no interest and responsibility to God or their fellow man. They would have been the guy in the Good Samaritan story that walked by because they were too occupied to worry about the guy who was hurt. In the Greek word, it says, "You fool, this night your life is demanded of you," is a legal term. It's when you have a loan and it's time to pay up, it's demanded. And what the rich man forgot, and what many times people today forget, is our lives, our possessions, everything that we have is on a short-term loan from God. Because eventually, we're going to be called to account for what we've done. We're going to be called, our loan of life and possessions is going to be called due. And we're going to have to face an accounting for what happened.
Yeah.
So, and again, when it looks here, it says, what about the things that you have prepared? Whose will they be then? And the commentary says you can look at that three different ways. You can look at it as the foolishness of just depending on material possessions. Material possessions are going to get me through life. I don't need God. I don't need anything else.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is, have you ever seen a hearse pulling a U-Haul? Once you're dead, it's gone. None of that stuff is going to help you get into heaven. You know, you get to the pearly gates and knock, and St. Peter's not going to ask you for your credit card. It doesn't work that way.
How many pairs of shoes?
How many pairs of shoes you've got? It points to the foolishness of this man. That's why he's called the foolish rich man. He's not looking for anything other than possessions. There's more to life than possessions. It can also point out to the fact he's isolated, because God says in this, who gets it? Maybe he doesn't have any family for it to go to, because his greed has isolated him from family, friends, and anybody else. And then that points back to the first guy who asked the question, make my brother give me my part of the inheritance. I don't want to be on good terms with him. I just want what's mine. Verse 21 says, that's how it is when the one who stores up treasures for himself and is not rich towards God. And the Greek phrasing for this literally means, it's rich towards God literally means gathering good things for God, doing things that God's going to approve of, using your resources for others. Now, I look around the room here, and every one of us here, my guess is, and I may be wrong, but my guess is almost every one of us in here are on fixed incomes of some type. You know, Social Security, pensions, or something. We're all on some type of fixed income. And we only got so much disposable income. Question is, what are you going to do with it? Where are you going to put it? And we need to be discerning on where it goes. But I think we also see in this parable the idea that we should be using some of that, I'm preaching to the choir, I hope, to use some of that disposable income for others as well as ourselves. Now, it doesn't have to be a lot. It's whatever you can afford. New Testament says God loves a cheerful giver. So if you can cheerfully give it, then give it. Don't just depend on, I have to have it all. There are things that we can do for others that helps us to stay in a right relationship with God. It's important that we as Christians look at where our security is. Is our security in how much money is in my bank account? Or is our security in where my relationship is with God through Jesus Christ? That's the relationship security that we should have. And personally, I think God takes care of the rest. But that's me talking.
I always feel like you go on faith,
Mhm.
and sometimes maybe you give a little bit more money to the church than you normally do, or something comes up and you do. But God's always told us that He's gonna give us everything we need. He's not gonna give us everything we want.
Nope.
And I've noticed as you get older, you don't want as much. I know.
You don't want to have to dust it.
I don't dust what I got, let alone buy more. Just forget that. But, yeah, I mean, I think we just have to rely on the fact that God is gonna take care of us.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean that, if you have some building thing, think, oh, okay, I got $3,000 or $4,000 a month coming in, I'll give the church $2,000 this
No.
month. No, that's not what you're supposed to do, but you're supposed to be
A good steward of what you've got.
Steward is the word.
You need to
yeah.
be discerning on where you use your disposable income.
Right, and if we can give extra from time to time, I think that's what we're supposed to do.
That's what we're supposed to do.
And
Well,
as
we,
get older, we try to do
most
that.
of you know that Vivian writes for WMU, and she gets paid for it, but not a lot, but a little. We put that up as disposable benevolence funds.
No, that's
So
great.
we want to give money something, that's mad money for us. We don't need it to live on, so we use it for other things. And not everybody has that kind of mad money, but we all need to be discerning on what we do with our disposable income. Because someday we will be held accountable for what we have done with what God has given us.
Does it have to be money?
No,
Oh, I didn't think so.
It's kind of your time, too.
time,
That's what I.
time, talents, whatever you have, what did you do with it?
Yep.
The big picture.
You're supposed to come take care of me, Sandy.
Oh, dear lordy. Okay. Good luck.
Good luck. Okay. Any other comments or anything? Okay, those were the book. What's next week?
All we gotta do, we'll go take
Oh, I
care
don't
of
know
it.
what's
No.
the book.
Look in your book. What's next week?
Next week, what's the next
Oh.
week? Get with it.
It is,
Numbers
I'm almost there.
7. Is it 7?
Would be 7, I think.
Great banquet.
The Great Banquet. Okay.
Ooh.
The Great
Number
Banquet.
7.
So
Can't wait.
that's next week.
And the chapter of yours that goes with that.
Luke 14, verses 15 to 24.
Yeah. Mine is called The Parable of the Large Banquet.
Well, this book just says the great thing.
Yeah. So we will look at that next week. Any other comments, questions?
As long as I don't have to put out money. I mean, if I don't have it. I put out everything else, you know.
Uh-huh.
Some days you have more and other times you don't. Some months you have more.
You take whatever you have on each month, and that's what you go with.
Light bill is.
Yeah. Mine's the same way. I have more some months disposable income than I have other months.
Right.
I can do more for others in some months than I can do for others.
And if
It's a
not
month-to-month thing.
money, it's just not money. It's me helping someone
Yeah.
at the store. Me helping someone get
You're
into the
always
store.
helping somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like that's a good thing
Somebody.
too.
Yeah. Time, talents, money, it all
All
comes in.
into the
And I
same-
think sometimes it just comes down to your attitude.
Mhm.
And, I mean, do you ever just you're in the store or something and you see somebody that just looks like they're miserable?
Yes.
And you say hi, you smile and say hi to them. And invariably, almost all the time when I do that, the person kind of looks and they smile and they walk away smiling.
Mhm.
Once in a while, you get somebody that looks like they want to shoot you. But
Usually they respond.
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
almost always do.
Mm-hmm.
And I embarrass my
I went
daughter.
I went to the store and I was really having a rough day. And I probably looked like I was really having a rough
Well-
day. So this little old guy, he goes, I go in and he goes, here's your card. He says, I was trying to figure out how to help you to get in the store, but here's your card. And so I was like, oh, thank you. But it was so nice that he had watched me go in and he hurried and got into the store and got me a card.
And I think that happens a lot more than we
I think
know.
it
Yeah.
does,
There's good
because I do
people.
it too.
There's good people, yeah.
Yeah, because some days I'm good and some days I'm not.
Oh,
Yeah.
me too.
Anyway, that's all.
Okay, let's close and then we'll be done for tonight. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this story. We thank you for the point that life is not tied up in possessions. Life is tied up in relationships. Relationships horizontally here on earth among believers and among the rest of the world. But it's also tied up with a vertical relationship with you. Thank you that we can depend on our security from you, not by just what we have, but what we have in the way of a relationship with you through Jesus Christ. Help us to be kind, considerate to all that we see, that we may smile at them and maybe brighten their day as well. For we ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen.